So, FlatTalk. Let's get away from the gravity stuff. It seems like my other video about gravity live stream was taken down as well by YouTube. I have to check, but I don't know what's going on there. It takes ages to load. It's not visible. Anyway, let's get to perspective. Perspective is another thing that people should get used to. Perspective. Perspective happens, exists, whether the earth is flat or a ball. So it's good for both people. Those who believe in the globe, those who believe in the flat earth. Perspective exists on both models, in both theories. But how come that globe earthers or people that globe in the globe that believe in the globe completely deny perspective, because perspective also happens on their model, within their model. Perspective. For example, there are two lampposts and they are above you, above your head, where the light source is. That's above your head, a few meters above you. And you're looking down the road and you get a lot of lampposts within a few meters, and the way it looks to you is like the first one you see is very high up in altitude and the next one is already below. Okay, the lamppost, the lantern at the top of that post is already below the first one you see. So who comes to the conclusion that the second lamppost and the lantern must be lower in altitude than the first one you're seeing? And we're talking about perspective. Most likely nobody. Nobody will come to the conclusion that the second lantern or lamppost is lower in altitude. No, they all share the same height. In truth, their altitude is always the same. Each lamppost has the same altitude, but because of perspective, the further you look into distance and you see the second, the third, the fourth lamppost, it will decrease in altitude, but only to your perception, not in reality. So you visually perceive it in this way because of perspective, and others would call it parallax maybe. Because if you now change your altitude, you stay in the same place, but you change your altitude, you go to the same height of the lamppost, of the top of the lamppost, the first one you're seeing, then all those behind, the third, the fourth, the fifth lamppost, will start to synchronize its altitude with the first one you're looking at, once you're increasing your altitude. And you're just looking down towards the horizon always. So you see, then it looks like all of the other lampposts are lifting up behind the first one you're perceiving. And that's parallax. Now if you go even further into altitude, then what happens? All of a sudden the first lamppost that you're looking at seems to be the lowest, while all of the other ones, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth lamppost, are rising up, and it looks like they are now higher than the first one you're watching. So all of this is created by perspective. You can go up and down, up and down, up and down, and you're looking at the third or fourth lamppost, and that third or fourth lamppost will move together with perspective and always pass by the first lamppost you're looking at. And you're not looking at the lamppost, but at the top of that lamppost, okay, at the lamp. That's what we're focusing on. So that's perspective. Every child, every kid knows that. You look down a road, and the road is in truth parallel, but the way you perceive it is the opposite of parallel. They move together, the sides of that road move together until they touch each other, but not in truth, only to your perception. It's created by a perspective. And again, the same with lampposts. You're looking down a road and you have lampposts and you're looking at the lamps. These lamps, because of perspective, the further they are away from you, will sink to your perception, not in reality. Because in reality, all these lampposts share the same height. They were built that way. There is truth, okay? So the way you perceive it is an illusion. The last one you're seeing is not lower in altitude than the first one you're seeing. But because of perspective, because of parallax, you perceive it in this way. And now again, you're changing altitude, and you're looking at the first light. The first light of that lamppost is coming down, whereas all the other lampposts' lights are moving upwards, behind the first one you're focusing on, okay? Until a point where everything is equal, like all the lampposts, because they share the same height and your eye level, they are perfectly in line now. And then if you go higher than that, the opposite happens. The first lamp you're focusing on will be lower, while all the other lamps will be higher. And actually, the last one you're seeing will be the highest lamp. All of this because of perspective, because of an illusion, a visual trick on your eyes, if you will, based on your position in space, based on the positions of objects in space. And all of that creates perspective. And why is this important? Because it explains why Earth does not have to be a ball in order to create the illusion of a sun sinking, or a moon sinking, or stars sinking, or airplanes sinking. Okay? And perspective is something that happens, that exists always, whether you believe in a flat Earth or you believe in a ball Earth. However, those who vehemently defend the ball Earth often just completely deny perspective, although it's the same thing that's happening for them as well. Okay? Also on a ball, you get perspective. Also on a ball, if we assume that the Earth is a ball and we have a road, same thing happens because of perspective. The road seems to be touching, or the sides of the road seems to be touching each other, at the horizon. Or at some point, if the road is thin, it may not even go all the way to the horizon, and it will already be so thin that you think that the sides touch each other. Okay? That happens also on a ball. So perspective cannot be denied. But what flat earthers say is that actually that's all you need. Perspective is all you need for a sun to set, for a moon to set, for stars to set. Why do we not see the North Star, the famous polar star, in or beyond the equator, in South America, for example, or in Africa? Why don't we see that star? Because of perspective. It's just like the lamp on the lamppost. The further we go away from it, it is sinking. And the same with the pole star. It's just sinking. The further you go south, the further you go away from that star. So the Earth does not have to be a ball in order to get that going, in order for this to happen. Okay? Hi, Shahab Arifi. Now I think I missed you because I don't really look at the live while I'm talking. But okay, I'm gonna quit that live. That's all to perspective that I have for now. I'll do a part 2, part 3, part 4, whatever we need in the future. Or because 3 people are joining right now, maybe you wanna hear something about perspective. Perspective is what creates the sunset and the sunrise and the moonset and the moonrise. Why? How can it be that an object in the sky sinks simply because of the way you perceive it? Well, because of distances. It moves away from you, and that can create the illusion of the object that moves away from you sinking or rising. When it comes to you, it comes closer to you, you perceive it as if it is rising up above your head. Or if it does not pass by your head, it's just rising up like a bow in the sky right in front of you. Just what we get from a sun, the path of the sun wave. Okay? The sun rises in the east, goes to a zenith point, sets in the west. It's a bow shape, and that bow shape is being created by perspective, because you have a certain point on Earth, and then the sun is moving in space. The sun is very far away from you, but it is coming closer to your position on Earth. And so that is what creates a rise and a set. Just as lampposts at the side of a road decrease in altitude the further they go away from you, but not in truth. They decrease only to your perception. They decrease in altitude. So the first one you're seeing is above your head. You look at an angle maybe of 45 degrees at the first one you're seeing. Then you're looking at the second lamppost. It's already sinking a few degrees, and you're looking at it with an angle of 30 degrees maybe. And then the third and the fourth, and so on it goes. So they are all sinking the further they go away from you. And the same with the sun. And why is the sun not getting any smaller? People say, well, all these lampposts, they are getting like thinner, smaller. They seem to vanish because I cannot perceive them anymore. Because you have a ratio between your eyes and or a distance, a certain distance between your eyes and the lamp on that lamppost that is maybe 2 or 3 meters, right, of distance. But to the last lamppost you're seeing, it's like it could be 1, 2, 3 kilometers. You see, there's a ratio between just a few meters and a few kilometers. However, with the sun is already in the sky, high up in the sky of thousands of kilometers, and then it is passing by doing another 1,000 kilometers, same amount, around the same amount of kilometers, so the ratio is much, much, much lower. And that's why the sun is not actually completely disappearing at the horizon. But it basically keeps its size, and sometimes it gets even bigger, but because of refraction, and that happens, or that is a thing that's about the atmosphere and the humidity of the atmosphere that actually disperses the light and then magnifies things. Not in truth, but to your perception. Okay? And that's about perspective. Same thing if you can do this experiment for yourself. You go to the city, you take a skyscraper that is straight up. You know, it's really perfectly straight up. It goes into altitude. I don't know, it's maybe 20 meters high, it's 40 meters high, whatever. Your skyscraper is high. It's high enough. You stand under it and you're focusing on a star. Okay? Or you stand next to it, of course not under the skyscraper, but right next to the wall. You're looking upwards, you have a straight line there, and you're focusing on a star that must be on that line of sight. Okay? Now, and it's good to know that you're standing on the edge of that building, because now you can change from left to right, okay? And then the edge of that building is your middle point, okay? And you can step to the left and you can step to the right. So what happens when you focus the star and you watch it along the line of the edge of that building, and you're stepping to the left side, that star will also go to the left side of this edge. If you're now going back to the edge, the star aligns again with that edge. If you're going to the right side, the star also goes to the right side with you, but the edge of the building is to the left. You see, and that's parallax. That's perspective. Also part of why we see certain things lower in the sky, although they might actually be higher in altitude, in actual altitude. Okay? So for example, because of perspective, one lamppost looks, or let's take another thing, because lampposts are usually share the same altitude. Let's take something else. Let's take two objects, two buildings that have a different, two skyscrapers that have a different altitude. Based on from where you see those two skyscrapers, you might come to a conclusion that skyscraper A is lower than skyscraper B, just because of perspective and the way you're perceiving it from your position. But in truth, if you ask somebody, it's actually the other way around. Skyscraper A is in truth higher than skyscraper B. But you see that because of perspective, because of parallax, because of your position in relation, and there's a relation to those buildings, you came to a conclusion based on your visual eye alone, okay? And that's deceptive. That's basically deception. You came to a wrong conclusion because you said, okay, from your point of view, skyscraper A is lower than skyscraper B. Although in truth, skyscraper B is lower than skyscraper A. And all that just because of perspective on your, and a visual deception on your eye. So people must make a distinction between reality, practical reality, and then theoretical science and theories, and therefore perception. Okay? And again, your perception of things is not reality. Not necessarily reality. The further the objects move away from you in space. So the further things are away from you, the more elusive things become. You know that, for example, you have a round shape. You can take a plate, for example, and then you hold it right in front of you, and then you take another round shape that is smaller than the plate, and you move it in between your eyes and the plate. So you're still looking at the plate, but you're moving it in between your eyes and the plate, and then that round object that is smaller than the plate, the closer you put it to your eye, the more it will be accustomed to the size of the plate. The more it will take on the size of that plate that you're watching that is actually much further away from you, but because you're bringing the smaller round shape closer to your eye, it will now look as if that smaller object has the same size as the plate. Simply just because of perspective. Simply just because of relationships. A relation between you and an object, there is a distance. And you and another object, there is another distance. So everything is related to that. And based on your position, you are perceiving it in a certain way, but that's very elusive. Okay? And perspective is part of this illusion that we're observing from Earth that is called sunrise and sunset, because in truth the sun is not setting or rising, it's not changing its altitude. It just stays where it is on that altitude, same height, it keeps its height, it's hovering above Earth, and that creates the illusion of it rising and setting because of perspective, because there's a relation between your geopoint on Earth that you're barely changing, and then objects like the sun, or the moon, or the stars that are far away and changing in a big way. Okay? Changing their positions in a very, very large scale. And that creates the illusion of sunrise and sunset. All just because of perspective, parallax, and distances, and all that. So perspective and loss of perspective you have also on a ball Earth. However, those who believe in a ball usually deny the existence of perspective. Or at least they say, well, perspective is not what creates sunrise and sunset. But we're saying, yes, indeed, it does create the sunrise and the sunset. Perspective alone can create that. So you don't need a ball Earth in order for you to observe or to perceive a sunrise and a sunset in the sky. That can be created via perspective. You have a flat surface. Let's say you have a table, for example. You have a carton on a table. Doesn't have to be a big one. Just some carton box, and you're moving that box along the table while you're not changing your position, and you're watching from really close to the surface of the table. Okay, your eyes are close to the surface of the table, almost like your eye level aligns with the surface of that table, and then you're watching that carton box go into distance. It will get smaller and smaller and smaller the further it goes away from you. And what's more important, its altitude will decrease. Okay? To your perception, not in reality. And that compares to how we perceive actually the sun in the sky. The sun is just sinking, looking like it's sinking because of perspective. Okay, you can rewatch this whole video. I'm gonna stop here because I keep repeating myself. And rewatch it, and you're gonna understand it better if you just checked in lately, like recently, few seconds, minutes ago. In some minutes this video will be hopefully live, not live, like saved and rewatchable. But I have some problems. Also, the other talk about gravity that I did earlier today and that I did yesterday, they did not load up onto YouTube yet, or the one from yesterday, the audio was removed. I did not get any notice from YouTube. I was talking to the support, but they haven't reached out to me yet. What happened? I don't know if that's a censor or something, but usually if you get a censor on topics, they tell you, and there was no copyright issue or anything because I'm just talking about gravity, obviously. But apparently they don't like that. And I mean, now you can listen to me, but after the live is closed, I don't know if the video will be uploaded or not, but I hope, and then you can rewatch it, please. Laws of perspective, it's simple explanation. It's not like rocket science that nobody understands with a lot of symbols and numbers and things that they just try to confuse you with. You get the idea that they're trying to confuse you, right? Just to make their theories, their false theories, more believable. I mean, truth is very simple. In the end, a simple truth goes a long way. You can talk up and invoke thousands of things with a lot of words, but yeah, again, the further you go away from truth, the more elusive it becomes. So that's it.